The distress signal died 3 hours before the fleet arrived. Captain Elena Voss stood on the bridge of the Defiant, her knuckles white against the command rail. Through the viewport, Outpost 7 hung in silence, a broken jewel against the void. The colony's habitation domes were shattered. Atmosphere vented like ghosts into space. No lights, no life signs, just the cold mathematics of extinction. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Chen's voice cracked. "I'm reading bodies, thousands of them. Exposed to vacuum," Elena closed her eyes. 15,000 colonists. Farmers, teachers, children. Her sister had lived there. Her nephew had just turned 6. "The Krell Empire did this," Admiral Marcus Kane said from the holographic display. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his hands trembled. "Their strike force left 2 hours ago. They didn't even bother to hide their signatures." "Why?" Elena whispered. "We had a ceasefire. Peace negotiations were a distraction." Kane's jaw tightened. While our diplomats talked, they positioned their fleets. Outpost 7 was a test, a message. They wanted to see if we'd learned to be afraid. Elena forced herself to look at the ruins. Bodies drifted past her viewport, a woman still clutching a child frozen in their final embrace. The little boy wore a red jacket. Just like her nephew, something cold crystallized in her chest. "Orders, Admiral?" Kane was silent for a long moment. Behind him, she could see the war room of the Human Defense Coalition. Generals in pressed uniforms, politicians with worried faces. A species that had spent 2 centuries teaching itself to be civilized, diplomatic, evolved. "We're recalling all diplomatic envoys," Kane said finally. "The Security Council is meeting now." "But Elena," he leaned closer to the camera, "prepare your fleet. Something tells me Mercy is about to become a relic of our past." The transmission ended. Elena turned to her crew. They were young. Most had never seen real combat. Humanity had enjoyed 50 years of relative peace. They'd grown soft, turned their weapons into museums, converted warships into cargo vessels. They'd forgotten what their ancestors knew. "Scan for survivors," she ordered. Every sector, every compartment. They found 43. 43 survivors out of 15,000. Hidden in reinforced shelters, they'd watched through security feeds as Krell soldiers walked through the corridors, methodically executing everyone they found. Men, women, elderly children, no distinction. The Krell had streamed it on their military channels, celebrating each kill. One survivor, a teenage girl named Sarah, grabbed Elena's arm when they pulled her from the wreckage. "They laughed," Sarah said, her voice hollow, "when my mom begged for my little brother's life. They laughed and made her watch." Elena held the girl as she shook. Around them, rescue crews worked in silence. No one spoke. Words felt obscene. In the colony's ruined central hub, Elena found a classroom. Tiny desks overturned, drawings on the walls, crayon pictures of families, of Earth's blue oceans, of dreams. A lesson plan still glowed on a cracked screen. Why humans choose peace. She thought of all the debates in Parliament, all the speeches about humanity's moral evolution, how they'd transcended their violent past, how the universe would learn from their example of restraint and compassion. The Krell had learned something. All right. They'd learned that mercy could be mistaken for weakness. Elena's communicator chirped. "Captain, you need to see this." In the colony's data center, technicians had recovered the security footage. She forced herself to watch. Krell warriors in ceremonial armor executing families. Their commander, a towering figure with scarred mandibles, speaking to the camera. "Humans," the translation scrolled. "You are soft. Your peace is weakness. Your mercy is foolishness. We will take your worlds one by one and you will do nothing. You have forgotten how to fight. You have forgotten how to make us fear you. Watch your children die, and know this is only the beginning." The commander stepped over a child's body without looking down. Elena played it again. And again, memorizing every face, every detail, every moment of calculated cruelty. This wasn't war. This was extermination. A message written in the blood of innocence. Her hands stopped shaking. The cold in her chest spread, filling her completely. She recognized this feeling from history books, from the darkest chapters of humanity's past. It was the moment when something ancient and terrible woke up, when a species remembered what it took to survive a hostile universe. "Lieutenant Chen," she said quietly, "begin weapons inventory. I want every ship in our fleet armed and ready within 48 hours. Ma'am, our standing orders are defensive posture only. Those orders were written by people who still believed in peace. Elena turned from the screens. Send a message to command. Tell them Captain Voss requests an immediate audience with General Hawthorne and the War Council. What should I tell them it's regarding? Elena looked back at the footage, frozen on the face of the Krell commander. Tell them it's time we remind the galaxy what humans are capable of when they stop choosing mercy. She walked to the viewport one last time. In the reflection, she barely recognized herself. The diplomatic officer who'd left Earth 3 months ago was gone. In her place stood something older, forged in the fires that created humanity. The Krell wanted to awaken the monsters humans had buried. They were about to get their wish. General Alexander. Hawthorne had not slept in 3 days. The War Council chamber was designed to inspire confidence. Polished marble, flags of United Earth, holographic displays showing humanity's colonies scattered across 14 systems. But now those displays told a different story. Red markers spread like infection across the map. 7 more outposts hit in the past 72 hours, 30,000 dead. The Krell weren't slowing down, they were accelerating. We need to respond with diplomatic pressure, Ambassador Chen argued, her voice strained. The Galactic Union has done nothing, Hawthorne interrupted. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the room like a blade. They've issued statements of concern, condemnations, strongly worded letters. Meanwhile, the Krell broadcast our children's murders as entertainment. He pulled up a hologram, the Krell commander from Outpost 7. The scarred face smiled at the camera. This is War Chief Zekthar. He's become a celebrity in the Krell Empire. They're selling recordings of the massacres. Families watch over dinner. The room fell silent. Captain Elena Voss stood near the back, still in her duty uniform, dried blood on her sleeve from pulling survivors from wreckage. She'd testified for 2 hours, her voice never wavering, her eyes never looking away from the council members who suggested patience. The vote is clear, Prime Minister Okafor said, his face grim. 67% of Parliament supports military action. The people are demanding we protect them. And the other 33%? Ambassador Chen asked. Are afraid we'll become what we were before, Okafor admitted. Before we evolved. Before we chose peace, Hawthorne stood. At 73, he was the oldest active general in human history. He'd been born in the final years of the border wars, raised by parents who remembered when humanity nearly destroyed itself. He'd spent his entire career teaching restraint, building a military force designed only for defense. That career ended the moment he saw the footage from Outpost 7. I've spent 50 years, he began, training humanity to be better, to rise above our violent instincts, to show the galaxy that intelligence and compassion could coexist with strength. He walked to the holographic display, touching a button. Images flooded the screens. Human hospitals on alien worlds. Human engineers building infrastructure for struggling species. Human mediators ending conflicts without bloodshed. We gave so much to this galaxy. We asked only to be left in peace. He pulled up new images. Outpost 7, Outpost 12. Colony Epsilon. Bodies floating in space. Children's toys drifting through debris fields. The Krell war chief laughing. They mistook our mercy for weakness. Our peace for cowardice. They believe we've forgotten what we are. Hawthorne's voice hardened. It's time we remind them. General Ambassador Chen stood. If we abandon our principles now, our principles didn't die at Outpost 7. Hawthorne's eyes blazed. Our innocence did. There's a difference between choosing peace and accepting slaughter. We chose peace when it was possible. The Krell have made it impossible. He activated the main display. A military plan materialized, fleet movements, target designations, strategic projections. This is Operation Reckoning. We will mobilize every combat-capable ship. We will retrofit civilian vessels with weapons. We will recall every veteran, activate every reserve, and open the sealed arsenals. Murmurs rippled through the council. The sealed arsenals. Weapons so terrible that humanity had locked them away after the border wars, swearing never to use them again. We're not just fighting back, Hawthorne continued. We're going to show the Krell, and every other species watching, that humanity's mercy was a gift, and gifts can be revoked. This is madness, Ambassador Chen said. We'll be starting a war. They already started it. Captain Voss's voice cracked through the chamber. She stepped forward, rage burning in her eyes. My sister is dead. My nephew is dead. 15,000 people who trusted us to protect them are dead. And you want us to write another letter? The ambassador fell silent. Hawthorne nodded to Voss. Captain, your fleet will lead the first wave. You'll target the Krell supply depot at Zerion Station. Show them we can strike their infrastructure as easily as they struck our civilians. No, Voss said. The room froze. Captain? Hawthorne raised an eyebrow. We don't strike their infrastructure. Voss walked to the display, her hands trembling but her voice steady. We strike War Chief Zekthar directly, personally. We find where he is and we end him. We show the Krell that if they celebrate murdering our children, they'll die screaming. That's assassination, Ambassador Chen breathed. That's justice, Voss finished. They made this personal. They wanted us to feel helpless, to be terrorized. So we show them terror, real terror, the kind that makes them afraid to sleep at night. Hawthorne studied the young captain. He saw himself 40 years ago, before peace, before civilization's gentle touch. He saw the predator humanity had been, the survivor that clawed its way from Earth's gravity well and conquered its own demons. Maybe they'd conquered those demons too well. Motion to approve Operation Reckoning, Hawthorne said. All in favor? Hands rose across the chamber. Even Ambassador Chen, tears streaming down her face, raised her hand. Unanimous. Okafor's voice was heavy. General Hawthorne, you have full military authority. God help us all. Hawthorne turned to the assembled officers. 50 years ago I watched humanity put its weapons away. I thought we'd never need them again. I was wrong. He pulled up the Krell commander's mocking face one final time. Send this message across all channels. To the Krell, to the Galactic Union, to everyone watching. Humanity chose peace because we believed in something better. The Krell Empire has shown us that mercy is mistaken for weakness in this galaxy. He let the silence stretch, then spoke the words that would echo across 100 worlds. Therefore, mercy is no longer our policy. Captain Voss smiled. A terrible, cold expression that held no joy. Only purpose, when do we leave? 36 hours, Hawthorne said. And Captain, when you find War Chief Zekthar, sir, make sure he understands what he awakened. The Krell homeworld of Draknor had never known fear. For 3,000 years, the Krell Empire had conquered, enslaved, and dominated. Their warriors were the finest in the galaxy. Their ships were legends. When they arrived at a world, civilization surrendered or burned. It was the natural order of things. War Chief Zekthar stood on the balcony of his fortress, watching the twin moons rise over the capital city. Below, crowds celebrated another victory. Footage of human colonies burning played on massive screens. Children waved flags. The Empire was strong. The Empire was eternal. His communication officer approached nervously. War Chief, long-range sensors detect a human fleet entering our outer system. Zekthar laughed, a deep, rumbling sound. How many ships? 247, War Chief. It appears to be their entire military force. Excellent. Zekthar turned to face his officers. They've come to negotiate, to beg, perhaps offer tribute in exchange for our mercy. He clicked his mandibles in amusement. Prepare a broadcast. I want all of Draknor to watch the humans grovel. But the human fleet didn't slow down, didn't broadcast surrender terms, didn't request an audience. They opened fire. The Krell orbital defense platforms lasted 17 minutes. Humanity's weapons weren't the defensive tools the galaxy had grown accustomed to. These were weapons from the old days. Kinetic kill vehicles that struck with the force of small stars. Plasma cannons that boiled armor into vapor. Missiles that learned and adapted with each defensive measure. Impossible, Zekthar breathed, watching his defenses crumble. They're merchants, diplomats. They don't... War Chief, the human flagship is broadcasting. General Hawthorne's face filled every screen across Draknor. His expression was carved from stone, his eyes reflecting horrors that made Krell warriors flinch. War Chief Zekthar, Hawthorne began, his voice calm and cold as the void. You broadcast the murder of our children. You made our grief into entertainment. You believed we were weak because we chose peace. The camera pulled back, revealing Captain Voss standing beside him, and behind them, ranks of human soldiers in powered armor. Black metal etched with names. The names of the dead from Outpost 7. You were wrong, Hawthorne continued. Humanity didn't forget how to fight. We remembered too well. We fought ourselves to the edge of extinction. We learned what it cost to be monsters, so we put our weapons away and chose mercy. He leaned forward. You just reminded us why we needed those weapons in the first place. The transmission cut to footage, but not of human colonies burning. This was Krell military bases exploding, Krell supply lines severed, Krell war fleets crippled and drifting. In 72 hours, humanity had dismantled 30% of the Krell Empire's military infrastructure. You wanted war, Voss said, her voice sharp as broken glass. You wanted to see what humans do when pushed. Allow us to demonstrate. The human fleet descended on Draknor like a storm of iron and fury. Zekthar rallied his forces, 10,000 elite warriors, atmospheric fighters, ground-to-space batteries. They fought with the desperation of a species realizing they'd made a terrible mistake. But humanity fought with something worse than desperation. They fought with purpose. Captain Voss led the ground assault personally. Her Marines moved through the fortress city with surgical precision. No civilians were harmed. Humanity hadn't lost that part of themselves. But every military target, every war monument celebrating conquest, every parade ground where Krell warriors had celebrated human deaths, they were systematically dismantled. War Chief Zekthar. Voss's voice echoed through the fortress speakers. You're going to stand trial. Every species you've terrorized will see you in chains. Every family you destroyed will know justice, Zeki. They roared defiance and charged with his personal guard, 50 of the Empire's deadliest warriors. They encountered 12 human soldiers. The battle lasted 4 minutes. Zekthar found himself on his knees, his armor smoking, his guards dead or unconscious. Captain Voss stood over him, her weapon trained on his head. Behind her visor, her eyes were empty of mercy. My nephew's name was Tommy, she said quietly. He was 6 years old. He loved dinosaurs and wanted to be a pilot. She pressed the barrel against his skull. Give me one reason I shouldn't end you right here. Because, General Hawthorne's voice came through her comm. The galaxy needs to see this trial. They need to see that even in our rage we remember justice. Voss trembled. For a long moment the only sound was Zekthar's labored breathing. She lowered her weapon. You're lucky, she told the war chief, that we're still human enough to believe in courts. Your victims didn't get that mercy. 3 months later, War Chief Zekthar stood in the Galactic Union Tribunal bound in chains. Representatives from 200 species watched as evidence was presented. The Krell Empire's 3,000 years of atrocities laid bare. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty of genocide, crimes against sapient life and violations of every galactic law. The sentence, life imprisonment on a neutral world, broadcasting his testimony so the galaxy would never forget. But the real change happened elsewhere. The human fleet, bloodied but unbroken, returned to their space. They didn't celebrate, didn't parade. They held memorials for their dead, not just from the recent massacres but for all they'd lost, including pieces of themselves they'd never fully recover. General Hawthorne addressed the human worlds one final time before retiring. We proved we remember how to fight. Now we must prove we remember how to stop. His voice was heavy with exhaustion. We will rebuild our defenses. We will never again be caught unprepared, but we will not become conquerors. We showed the galaxy our teeth. Now we show them our humanity. Captain Voss stood at the memorial on Outpost 7, rebuilt, renamed New Hope. Her sister's name was carved in marble alongside 15,000 others. Tommy's name was there too, with his favorite dinosaur etched beside it. We won, Lieutenant Chen said softly, standing beside her. Did we? Voss touched her nephew's name. We saved ourselves, but we had to become something we swore we'd never be again. We became survivors, Chen replied. We became protectors. The Krell taught us that peace requires strength. Across the galaxy, species that had remained silent during the massacres now watched humanity with new eyes. Not with fear, though some felt that too, but with understanding. Humanity had shown restraint when weak, fury when provoked, and mercy even in victory. They had proven that choosing peace from a position of strength was the hardest choice of all. The Krell Empire fractured, its conquered species finally free. Other aggressive powers reconsidered their plans. And humanity, scarred but unbroken, rebuilt, not just their colonies, but their identity. They were no longer the naive peacekeepers who believed mercy alone could change the galaxy. They were protectors who understood that sometimes The cost of peace is the willingness to fight. In the darkness between stars, human ships now patrolled with weapons ready and eyes open, not seeking war but prepared for it, not hoping for conflict but refusing to be victims. The galaxy had asked what humans were capable of. Humanity had answered, and the universe would never forget.